It was unknown if Shun Long's luck was good or bad, but not long after he left the Earth Bear's cave, an early rank 2, silver-haired fox, attacked him. Without using any of his chi, just by relying on the monarch's eternal body's strength, Shun Long sent a full-powered punch towards the fox's ribcage. Although the silver-haired fox also managed to bite Shun Long's hand before the punch had connected, Shun Long only felt a sting before the fox was sent flying towards the nearby trees. As a rank 2 magic beast, the silver-haired fox had expected its teeth to tear through the human's arm without a problem. However, Shun Long's body was extremely durable and the fox didn't even last one punch before it was heavily injured. At this point, unless a magic beast had some sort of natural weapon, like the iron-winged eagle's sharp wings, they probably wouldn't be a match for Shun Long, unless the beast had reached the middle level of rank 2. This outer sect examination truly is a survival test. You may die at any moment if you aren't careful here, Shun Long thought. After killing the silver-haired fox and storing its body, he then headed deeper inside the demonic mountain region. Master, there are plenty of rank 2 beasts in this area, Little Black warned. Shun Long was more than 50 miles away from the demonic mountain region's entrance by now, and the more he walked the more he noticed how the rank 2 magic beasts around him had started to increase in number. However, with Little Black scanning the area around him, he didn't have anything to worry about, as he avoided the magic beasts that were at the middle stage of rank 2 and above. Night soon arrived and Shun Long jumped on top of a tree when he heard Little Black's voice inside his head. Master, I feel that as we are heading deeper inside this demonic mountain region, the chi around us is becoming purer compared to when we were still on the outskirts. Shun Long nodded his head as he too had discovered this earlier. As he activated the monarch's hourglass, his chi balls were being refined faster than usual. Did you find out the reason behind this change? Little Black shook his head before replying. There is definitely something extraordinary deeper in this demonic mountain region, or the density of the chi in the air wouldn't have changed for no reason. Then with a joyous voice Little Black said, Master, the rank 2 blood wolves that we were looking for earlier have now appeared almost 4 miles away from our east. Elated, Shun Long stood up and followed Little Black's directions as he quickly headed towards the wolves' location. The blood wolves were magic beasts that always hunted in packs, and it wouldn't be easy to kill them, but their hearts as well as their beast cores were important to Shun Long, who wanted to refine the profound earth fruit into a pill. After a short while, Shun Long had arrived in front of a valley where 5 early rank 2 blood wolves had encircled a small group of blue-robed disciples. There were 4 people in this group, 1 man and 3 women, each of them covering each other's back, so the blood wolves wouldn't pick them off one by one. Shun Long could sense that the strongest among these disciples was the good-looking young man with the blue sword in his hand, who was at the early rank 3 in Earth grade, while the 3 women's strength was only at the early rank 2 in Earth grade. Just as he was about to sit at a tree and wait until the blood wolves had tired themselves with this group of disciples from the Roaring Wind Pavilion, Shun Long's mind had a sudden idea as he looked at this group of 4 people before he walked towards them. As soon as the good-looking young man noticed Shun Long, he waved his hand as he screamed, "Brother, please help us." He was fighting off 3 wolves on his own while the 3 young women behind him were also struggling to contain the 2 wolves that were left for them. Shun Long then looked at the young man whose body was riddled with bites and claw marks as he asked bluntly, "What will I get if I help you?" Both the young man and the 3 young women were stunned. "Right. Why will he risk his life to help us?" The young man then gritted his teeth as he said determinedly, "We can give you 4 survival points." But Shun Long just shook his head at this suggestion as he responded, "Won't I be able to get your survival points if I just let the blood wolves kill you? I will also be able to get all your possessions by then." The young man was shocked at Shun Long's bluntness, but he knew that his words were correct. He then asked in a frantic voice, "What do you want then?" "I want the 4 survival points, as well as the blood wolves' hearts and beast cores." As soon as they heard Shun Long's demands, all 4 of them were furious, as the girls were the first to scream. "Impossible." The young man also shook his head as he said, "I can concede and also give you the blood wolves' hearts along with the 4 survival points, but I need the beast cores as well as the wolves' pelts." Shun Long shook his head at this group's greed as he turned and walked away. While he may have sounded to be asking for too much, the truth was that if he didn't help them, not only would these people have no chance to kill the blood wolves by themselves, but at least 3 of them, if not their entire group, would end up dead here. As the young man in blue robes saw that Shun Long was leaving, he gritted his teeth as he shouted, "Wait." He then took a deep breath as he continued. "If you can really help us, then you can take 3 of the beast cores as well." Shun Long thought for a moment, before nodding his head as he unleashed his aura of an early rank 8 Qi condensation cultivator. Before the young man and the 3 young girls had any time to get angry at this Qi condensation rookie who had been playing them for so long, Shun Long had already arrived behind a blood wolf as he gathered his Qi in his right hand and punched towards the wolf's back. As Shun Long's fist connected with the wolf's spine, a cracking sound was heard as the wolf whimpered before it collapsed on the ground, and after twitching for a while, it stopped breathing entirely. The group of disciples from the Roaring Wind Pavilion were shocked when the young man was the first to recover as he shouted, "Careful." As one of the 3 women was still absorbed watching Shun Long kill the wolf, another one had appeared above her head as its sharp claws headed straight towards her neck. The girl screamed and turned to run, but the wolf's claws had ripped off the robes on her back as a bloody imprint of a huge claw was left on her skin. This girl instantly passed out, while the rest of the blood wolves had suddenly turned frenzied as they smelled the scent of blood from this young woman. Shun Long, who had just killed one of the 3 blood wolves that were attacking the young man, saw what happened and rushed to kill the other 2 wolves which were now madly attacking the 2 girls. His speed was extremely fast as he had arrived in front of the 2 wolves in less than 2 breaths, before he ruthlessly kicked with his left foot in a sweeping manner towards one of the 2 wolves' front legs. A cracking sound was heard as the wolf's front legs were broken, and before it had much time to react, one of the 2 girls used her sword as she stabbed its head. As this wolf died, the other one was also taken care of quickly, before Shun Long turned to help the young man who was fighting off 2 wolves with his sword. The hunters had turned into prey as the wolves tried to escape, but in a 2 against 4, their heads were soon chopped off by the sword-wielding young man. As soon as the fight was over, the 3 disciples of the Roaring Wind Pavilion quickly rushed to help the young woman whose back was injured by the blood wolf and was now unconscious. After they made sure that she was going to be all right, the young man looked at Shun Long as he said, "Thank you for your help, brother." Shun Long just shook his head though as he replied. It was a mutual exchange. Just as the young man was about to speak, one of the 2 girls looked at him as she whispered, "Senior brother, are we really going to give him the wolves' cores along with our survival points? No matter how strong he may be, he is just a Qi condensation rookie in the end. If we all fight against him, then maybe we can—" Shun Long's eyes turned chilly as he heard this, and he turned to look at this woman with undisguised killing intent. Now that he had saved them, this woman wanted them to go back on their word? The woman staggered back a few steps as her face paled when she thought of how brutally Shun Long had killed the blood wolves just now. Contrary to her wishes, though, the young man headed towards Shun Long as he cupped his hands before he handed the survival points that he had promised. After that, he turned his head to speak to the woman who had whispered to him just now as he answered with anger obvious in his voice. "Since we promise something, it's only proper to hold our own end of the deal as well." The woman hanged her head dejected as she replied in a weak voice, "Yes, senior brother, Fei Fong was wrong." Shun Long was impressed by this man's forthrightness as he nodded at him before he turned to remove the wolves' hearts and beast cores. Among the 5 wolves, they found 4 beast cores, while the last wolf hadn't formed one yet. However, as per their agreement, Shun Long took 3 of the cores for himself as he left the other one for them. Just as he was about to leave, the young man from the Raging Wind Pavilion asked, "Brother, judging from your robes, you must be a disciple from the Floating Clouds sect, correct?" Shun Long nodded his head as the man continued by cupping his hands. "My name is Yong Ru, and these 3 are my junior sisters from the Roaring Wind Pavilion. They are Fei Fong, Ming Zhu, and Xiao Lian. Please forgive Fei Fong as she is still immature. May I ask for brother's name?" Although Shun Long was just a Qi condensation cultivator, Yong Ru, who had witnessed his strength, actually considered him to be a peak rank 3 Earth cultivator who was seemingly hiding his true strength for some reason. My name is Shun Long. Shun Long also cupped his hands at Yongru. Yongru tried to think, but he didn't seem to have heard about any strong disciple from the Floating Cloud sect with this name. He then put that matter on the back of his mind as he continued. To tell the truth, Brother Shun, me and my junior sisters are heading towards the Central Mountain. If Brother Shun is also heading there, perhaps we could travel together. Based on Shun Long's extraordinary strength, Yongru knew that their journey would be a lot safer if he joined them. Central Mountain? Shun Long was perplexed as he hadn't heard anything about a specific mountain in the demonic mountain region. Brother Shun doesn't know. Yongru asked, bewildered, as he started explaining. Well, it isn't really a secret anyway. The demonic mountain region covers a vast distance of more than 5,000 miles. Among those 5,000 miles, there is a large number of mountains. However, the most important of them all is the one at the center of this region, the Central Mountain. Around the Central Mountain, there are also many other mountains, and most of them are filled with priceless treasures, Yongru said in a tone filled with desire. Shun Long felt that something was wrong as he asked, if there are so many treasures around the Central Mountain, then why haven't they all been picked by the various sect elders, or, at the very least, the disciples who were here at the previous sect examination tests? Yongru shook his head as he said, your words are slightly wrong here, Brother Shun. Actually, this involves a big secret that my grandfather told me. My grandfather is an elder in the Roaring Wind Pavilion, and in the past, he and some other elders followed the pavilion master inside the demonic mountain region to pick these very treasures. That day, a terrifying magic beast at the peak of rank 4 emerged from the Central Mountain, and as it attacked them, barely half of their group managed to escape that day, while the rest of them perished. Ever since that day, no one above the Earth grade has stepped foot inside the demonic mountain region, in fear of being attacked by this magic beast. That is why this region is now used as the examination ground by our sects. As for the mountains around the Central Mountain with their priceless treasures, all of them are guarded by magic beasts who are at least in the middle of rank 3 if not higher, hence why no one has managed to obtain any treasures from them. However, the chi coming from the Central Mountain is much thicker than the chi inside any of our 4 sects, and that's the reason why every sect believes that there is a huge secret inside the Central Mountain. However, with a peak rank 4 magic beast standing guard, as Yongru finished speaking, he sighed as he thought of the many unobtainable treasures that they couldn't be able to get their hands on. However, there is also a bout of good fortune even for us. Every 30 years, the Central Mountain erupts with pure chi that enriches the atmosphere in the demonic mountain region. The closer you are to the Central Mountain during the eruption, the more benefits you would be able to obtain if you managed to absorb the pure chi. As Yongru finished speaking, Shun Long said, and yet, the closer you are to the Central Mountain, the bigger the danger to meet a high-rank magic beast, right? That is why I asked Brother Shun if you wanted to come with us. We can better protect each other until we find a place to hide near the Central Mountain, while we will wait for the chi eruption to start. Shun Long nodded his head at Yongru's words as he said, traveling together doesn't sound so bad. We can at least go together until we reach the perimeter of the Central Mountain. Everyone in the group was excited to hear that Shun Long would be joining them, as they would now have another strong person to rely on. Haha. Thank you, Brother Shun. With you in our team, it will be an even more enjoyable journey. Shun Long smiled, as he had already formed a favorable opinion of Yongru earlier, as he now asked, right, I have a question. Won't the sects care if a disciple somehow manages to find a priceless treasure near the Central Mountain? Yongru shook his head as he said, how could they not care? Even if a disciple finds something precious, how are they going to hide it without a spatial ring? When we leave the demonic mountain region, the elders will check all the disciples for treasures, and they will of course offer to recompensate the disciples with sect points if they have found anything valuable. In other words, if you find something precious, you won't have a chance to hide it from the eyes of the sect, and you would be practically forced to exchange it for sect points. Unless, of course, a disciple has a spatial ring. Disciples at the early Earth grade who have spatial rings usually belong to the large families, and the sects won't strain their position with those families if it's not for a good reason. However, if the treasure is important enough, then of course anything can happen. Shun Long smiled as he cupped his hands and thanked Yongru. However, deep inside, he started detesting the four sects. So the disciples would be forced to risk their lives in the outer sect examination, and yet if they find something they would have to give it to the sect in exchange for sect points whether they like it or not. The sect would also make sure that the disciples would be searched in case they tried to hide something from them. As Shun Long thought of this, his opinion of the floating clouds sect drastically dropped. Since it was already nighttime, their group decided to camp here for the night before heading towards the central mountain in the morning. Grouping around, Yongru started a small fire as they began to cook the blood wolf's meat. "Senior brother, won't the magic beasts around us be attracted by the fire?" The girl who had her robes torn earlier had now changed in a new set as she asked Yongru nervously. Shun Long shook his head while Yongru smiled and answered. When the blood wolves die, their bodies emit a poisonous substance, and if another magic beast below the rank 3 consumes them, they will most likely die from this poison. However, by cooking the wolves' meat, the poison is excreted along with the fat of the wolves, leaving behind the purest of their meat. Hence, no beast below the rank 2 would come close after smelling the blood of the blood wolves, so this could also be considered the best form of protection for us. Shun Long nodded his head at Yongru's explanation. He was impressed as pretty much everything he had said was correct. It seemed that Yongru was very well prepared for this sect exam. But senior brother, what if a rank 3 magic beast spots us? Are rank 3 magic beasts that idle that they would be casually roaming outside their territories for no reason? Yongru asked in return, when suddenly, the excited voice of a man could be heard around 100 meters away from their group as it shouted, "Boss, we found some more prey." As this voice was heard, 2 young men followed behind a huge burly man. They were all wearing brown robes, indicating that they were disciples from the iron-hardened sect. The burly man in the front was over 2 meters, 6.5 feet, tall, and his fingers were dripping with blood, while the other 2 behind him also had blood all over their robes. At that moment, the young man behind the huge burly man shouted, "Look, boss, they even prepared food for us." You are right, Shaoli, what a good first day we had. First we killed those ants from the floating cloud sect and gathered so many survival points, and now there is food and even beauties to keep us company. The boss is right, there are 3 of us and there are just 3 beauties, 1 for each of us, ha 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 ha. Little beauties, you should obediently listen to our boss, or you won't be the first women to die by his hands today. That's right. If you are obedient, our boss will definitely let you live. Shun Long's eyes slightly narrowed while the 3 girls rushed to hide behind him and Yongru. Yongru faced the burly man as he said in a bold tone, "Who do you think you are to dare speak to us like this?" The man named Xiao Li then looked at Yongru mockingly as he replied, "Punk, who do you think you are to talk to boss like that? If you are sensible, you will quickly hand over your survival points before scramming." The boss though looked at the other young man beside him as he said, "Xiao Wan, Shaoli, just take care of these punks quickly." After he gave this order, the burly man started walking towards the food. "Of course, boss." Both Xiao Wan and Shaoli immediately responded as they slowly walked towards Shun Long and Yongru. "Senior brother." The 3 girls shouted, but Yongru looked at them and said, "Just stay back, you can't help here." Yongru had noticed that these 2 men's auras were at the same level as him, the early rank 3 in Earth grade. That's why he just told the 3 women to stay back. Shaoli didn't immediately start to fight, and instead looked at Shun Long as he said, "You will be the 3rd person I kill today. Too bad that you didn't cherish the opportunity to give up your survival point and flee while you had the chance, kid. But you can still be considered lucky to be killed by me. If the boss had decided to kill you guys, you wouldn't be dying as easily, while I will make sure to give you a quick death in return." Xiao Wan and Shaoli then both unleashed their auras at the early stage of rank 3 Earth grade. Xiao Wan fought with Yongru, while Shaoli was holding a saber as he rushed towards Shun Long with a big smile on his face. Shun Long immediately activated the Monarch's Hourglass followed by the Monarch's Domain as everything around him went still. In a sphere around Shun Long, time was frozen. Inside the Monarch's Domain, Shun Long was king. Unless the discrepancy in cultivation was too big or a person had some kind of secret technique, no one could move inside the Monarch's Domain. Not just Xiaoli but even Xiao Wan and Yongru along with the three girls, everyone was now in a frozen-like state. It wasn't just their bodies that couldn't move, even their thoughts were all frozen. The monarch's domain had grown even stronger after Shun Long had advanced into the 8th rank in qi condensation. The boss was the only one who could somewhat move his body and thoughts, but even he was extremely slow under the suppression of the monarch's domain, as he turned his horrified eyes towards Shun Long. Shun Long, who was now at the early rank 8 in qi condensation, could render an early rank 3 Earth-grade cultivator, absolutely helpless. Even their boss, who was at the middle of rank 3 in Earth grade, was heavily affected by the suppression. Xiaoli's face was still frozen with that smile on his face as Shun Long walked towards him. Shun Long had arrived in front of him as he spoke in a low voice, even though he knew that Xiaoli couldn't hear him. Unfortunately for you, I won't be the third person that you kill today. After that, Shun Long's hand was clenched in a tight fist as he punched ferociously towards Xiaoli's abdomen. That was the place where a person's dantian was at. The place where Xiaoli held all his qi and cultivated from. Shun Long's heavy punch went through Xiaoli's body as it completely shattered his dantian. Then he turned his head to look at the boss, who was still struggling under the heavy suppression of the monarch's domain, as he said, "Although I don't consider myself some kind of hero, thanks to you, I can now see the truth. This is just a survival test and a dog-eat-dog world after all. You have killed people on your first day here, just because you wanted to do so." I was so immersed in the mentality from Earth that I had almost forgotten that people attacked me outside of the Blue Forest that day. I almost forgot that punk Xiao Shurtu threatened to break my limbs inside the Imperial Palace. Threatening to kill me again and again. I guess this is the true cultivation world. After Shun Long finished speaking, he walked towards this man step by step as he slowly approached him. That's right, master. This is the world of cultivation after all. When I was born, people tried to kill me again and again, just because they were stronger than me. While you shouldn't become like those people, you still shouldn't be afraid of killing those that threaten your life. Little Black's voice sounded inside Shun Long's mind. Shun Long looked at the man in front of him whom these people called the boss, and his eyes narrowed as he told him, "From the first moment I saw you walking here, I knew what kind of person you are. You walked with your hands filled with blood, acting so proud while you boasted of the disciples that you had just killed before you stole their survival points. Don't misunderstand. I am not doing this for justice or because I care about those that you have killed. It's simply because in my eyes, you like you just doesn't deserve to live." The burly man could sense Shun Long's killing intention. His voice was resolute as he sounded like there was nothing that would stop him from killing this man. Shun Long looked at the man right in the eyes as he said, "Prepare yourself." He himself also took a deep breath as he tried to calm his breathing that had turned somewhat erratic. Despite everything else, Shun Long still hadn't killed a man in his life. He has killed magic beasts, but beasts only act on instinct, not intelligence. They either kill you or you kill them. But killing a man was different. There were two types of killers: people who killed wantonly and people who killed with a goal and reason in their minds. In the end, no cultivator could escape from the cycle of killing. To advance in life, you must step on someone else. Wait, do you know who I am? I am Wang Hua from the Iron-Hardened sect. The burly man could sense Shun Long's disturbance in his frame of mind as he quickly tried to take advantage of it. If Yongru could hear this man's name, he would definitely be startled. It was too bad that he was under the suppression of the monarch's domain and couldn't even sense that time had stopped around him. Shun Long just shook his head as he tightly clenched his right hand. As the monarch's eternal body provided abundant energy, Shun Long sent a punch at Wang Hua, straight at the temple. "No, you can't kill me." Wang Hua screamed terrified as he saw the approaching punch, but couldn't escape fast enough due to the restrictions of the monarch's domain. As the punch connected with his temple, Wang Hua's head exploded like a watermelon as his body was then sent spinning through the air. Blood filled Shun Long's right hand and robes as brain matter splattered all over the ground. Shun Long watched this scene, and his hand started to tremble. The scene of Wang Hua screaming before he died reverberated in his ears for a good while. Shun Long took a few deep breaths, as if trying to digest the whole scene and calm his rapid heartbeats when Little Black's voice was heard in his head. Master, don't think too much into it. Killing is part of the natural cycle. It's the same whether it involves animals, magic beasts, or humans. Animals kill each other to survive, whether it is for food or because they feel threatened. Magic beasts kill everything that they encounter to consume their flesh and become stronger. They don't differentiate between humans, animals, or even other magic beasts. Humans are the same as well. They kill animals and magic beasts for food, while they kill other humans for countless reasons, whether that involves a personal feud, treasures, and many other reasons. This is the life of cultivators, stepping through countless corpses as they walk forward. Shun Long found himself slightly lost in Little Black's words. After all, the mental impact of when you kill a person the first time doesn't go away that easily. However, the more he thought about it, the more he found that Little Black's words made sense. Although his soul originally belonged to this world before it was split into 3 parts, it was only now, after killing Wang Hua, that Shun Long had started to truly accept this world. The mental barriers in his heart had now started to slowly unshackle themselves. Shun Long then stopped the monarch's domain, and a scream that sounded like a pig being butchered was heard. Xiao Wan and Yongru, who were heading towards each other, suddenly turned their heads to look at the source of the scream, only to see Xiao Li sprawled on the ground, unable to move. No! Xiao Wan rushed to Xiao Li's side as he supported him, while Xiao Li was still screaming in pain. Brother, what happened to you? Xiao Wan asked anxiously, but Xiao Li didn't reply. He couldn't reply. The pain from having your dantian shattered was both a mental and a physical torture, beyond what most humans could endure. At the same time, another scream was heard, this time from behind Yongru. Yongru turned around and saw his junior sister, Qiao Lian, staring at something with frozen eyes. Yongru and his other 2 junior sisters also followed her line of vision, only to see a headless corpse dressed in the iron-hardened sex robes lying on the ground. Shocked, Yongru's eyes looked around searching for Shun Long, only to see him sitting on a patch of grass with his eyes closed, as blood dyed his robes and his right hand. This headless corpse obviously belonged to the leader of the enemy's group, Wang Hua. Yongru didn't ask anything, and instead turned his head to look at the 3 girls behind him. As if in tacit understanding, the girls followed Yongru as they encircled Xiao Wan, who was still trying to calm the screaming Xiao Li. Earlier, the 3 girls at the early stage of rank 2 would be completely useless in such a fight, but now, surrounding just the early rank 3 Earth grade Xiao Wan and the crippled Xiao Li, they could definitely turn the tables on them. Xiao Wan looked around warily as he saw the 4 of them surrounding him and his brother, and he asked in an angry voice that tried to conceal his fear. What do you want? What did you do to my brother? If you don't answer, I will kill you all. Yongru and the 3 girls who had now surrounded this pair of brothers all looked at Xiao Wan disdainfully, as Yongru was the one who spoke. Even I can see from here that your brother's dantian has shattered. Don't tell me that you haven't noticed it yet. Xiao Wan's face paled as he shouted, Bio boss, save me. As he screamed, Xiao Wan turned his head around to plead for help from Wang Hua, but when he saw the headless corpse behind him, his head almost blinked out. BBOBOSS. How is this possible? Xiao Wan's eyes had turned frantic as despair started gripping his heart. He knew that even if he was stronger than Yongru 1 versus 1, he couldn't win against him combined with the 3 girls that surrounded him. As for wondering how his brother got crippled and his boss died, he had no idea, while his frame of mind just couldn't process that information right now. His only goal was to escape as far as he could. He turned his eyes to look at Yongru as he said in a pleading tone, Please, let us leave. We will give you our survival points, and everything else we have. Please. Xiao Wan was practically begging at this point, and Shun Long, who had just heard him, opened his eyes from the distance as he watched this scene coldly. Yongru looked at Xiao Wan with cold eyes. Although he didn't want to kill a man who was begging for his life, he didn't have many options right now. These people didn't just want to take their survival points earlier, they also wanted to kill them, and even RAP his junior sisters. He simply couldn't allow people like them to live, now that they are in a bad spot, even if they are begging for their lives. Kill. Yongru shouted as he and the three girls attacked Xiaowan. Yongru, who was brandishing his sword, was enough to keep Xiaowan at bay. However, now that the three young women were also added into the mix, Xiaowan quickly found himself caught in a bad situation. Yongru's attacks were all-powerful and his sword was extremely sharp, while each one of the girls was holding a small dagger as they looked for opportune moments to attack. Xiaowan quickly found himself riddled with injuries as Yongru's sword had left deep cuts in his body. His arms, legs, and even his face were already injured. After an incense stick of time, Xiaowan could no longer keep up against the heavy barrage of attacks and finally turned to retreat. As he parried away Yongru's sword with his own and looked to escape, a dagger was suddenly plunged in his back as it reached all the way inside him until it pierced his heart. Blood filled Fei Fong's hands as she pulled the dagger out of Xiaowan's body. Xiaowan's eyes turned dull and unfocused as his breathing grew weaker and weaker. He couldn't even turn his head to look at the face of his killer as he collapsed on the ground, a pool of blood forming underneath his body. Yongru threw a last look at Xiaowan's body before turning his head to look at Xiaoli, whose screaming had just stopped after he heard a loud bang and saw his brother's body fall to the ground. Shun Long was watching everything from the distance as he saw Yongru walking towards Xiaoli step by step. Xiaoli wanted to speak, but his fear had overtaken his reason. His mouth made inaudible sounds as he saw Yongru raising his sword and slashing it towards his neck. His head rolled off from his body as a fountain of blood spurted from his neck. The headless corpse rolled on the ground before it finally stopped moving. Shun Long watched everything as he observed the cruelty of this world and mumbled in his head. I was right. It won't matter if you beg, it won't matter if you cried, it won't matter if you are right or wrong. It won't even matter if you are good or evil. In the end, the only thing that matters is who will be stronger. The floating cloud sect is stronger than its disciples, so it can afford to take everything for them without an explanation and just give them sect points if they want to. These people too thought that they were stronger, so they decided to rob everything from us, including our lives, without an explanation. Yet now that the situation changed, Yongru, who was stronger than them, got to decide the two brothers' life and death. There isn't even a need for explanations or reasoning. The strong live and prosper while the weak kneel and get stepped on, or they die. Master, do you think that's cruel? No, I understand this world now. There is only one rule: if you don't want to get trampled on, become stronger. If Wang Ho was stronger than me, I also would have died. After Shun Long finished speaking to Little Black, he stood up as he walked towards Wang Ho's body. There was a red jade just like his own sect-identifying jade near Wang Ho's chest. Shun Long grabbed it and sent his spiritual strength inside it, only to be extremely surprised. There were 13 survival points inside it. Aside from the survival points, he also found 2 early rank 2 magic beast cores inside a small bag. After absorbing them inside the Stone of Time, Shun Long walked towards Yongru and the 3 girls. Seeing the fresh blood in his right hand and robes, the 4 of them were perplexed and Yongru couldn't help asking, "Are you okay, Brother Shun? What happened to you?" None of them could understand how Shun Long had suddenly got injured. "I'm fine, how about you guys?" Shun Long shook his head as he responded. "Thankfully, no one got hurt." Yongru exclaimed. Yongru still thought that Shun Long had somehow gotten hurt, but he didn't want to explain it so that he wouldn't embarrass himself. Yongru tacitly stopped mentioning it, but after turning his head to look at the headless corpse of Wang Hua, his voice started trembling as he asked with dread evident in his eyes, "Brother Shun, do you have any idea what happened earlier? How is it possible for their boss to have been killed in a split second, and for that Xiaoli to be also crippled?" In his mind, Yongru didn't even connect the death of Wang Hua directly to Shun Long. Although Shun Long was strong, he couldn't kill someone in the blink of an eye, especially someone as strong as Wang Hua, even if he was at the peak of rank 3 in Earth grade. However, since he was quite a bit stronger than Yongru, perhaps Shun Long should have noticed some clues. At least that's what Yongru had assumed. Shun Long just shook his head at Yongru's question though. Obviously, he wouldn't admit that he was the one who did it. Keeping his trump cards hidden was extremely important. In the past, when he had used the monarch's domain inside the imperial palace, The pressure from it was truly similar to the pulverizing gravity art from the mortal world. However, after advancing to rank 8 in chi condensation, the monarch's domain had also evolved. What it exhibited wasn't just pressure like it did in the past, but a type of temporal restriction that stopped everything around Shun Long. It was almost as if Shun Long only had access to an elementary part of the technique at the start, and it was becoming stronger as he advanced in his cultivation. Yong-ru and the three girls were disappointed after seeing Shun Long's reaction. If even he hadn't seen anything, then they wouldn't know what happened. How terrifying would it be to have an enemy that can kill you without knowing when or how you were attacked? Yong-ru then took out 2 red, sect-identifying jades as he said, "Right? These guys also had 7 survival points on them. To tell you the truth, brother, me and my junior sisters are attending this sect examination for 2 reasons. The first is to take advantage of the chi that will erupt from the central mountain to advance our cultivation, while the second reason is to try and find a hell flower for my grandfather. We know that it's impossible to get to the top 100 spots with just our strength, so we don't aim to gather survival points at all. My grandfather is an elder in the Roaring Wind Pavilion, and the measly amount of 10 or 100 sect points is useless to me anyway." As Yong-ru finished speaking, he handed the sect-identifying jades to Shun Long. Shun Long didn't refuse and instead said, "Thank you. If we do find a hell flower, I will help you obtain it. However, I don't think it's going to be that easy to find one." Yong-ru shook his head as he said, No. How could these 7 survival points match up to the value of a rank 3 spiritual herb like the hell flower?" Shun Long, however, shook his head and didn't respond. Yong-ru had treated him sincerely and had shared with him a lot valuable information. If they were going to find a hell flower, then Shun Long would really do his best to help him obtain it. However, as a rank 3 spiritual herb, the hell flower was usually guarded by rank 3 magic beasts which were equal to heaven-grade cultivators, and it was an issue whether there was a hell flower in the demonic mountain region in the first place. As Shun Long extracted the survival points from the 2 sect-identifying jades of Xiao Li and Xiao Wan, as well as counting Wang Hua's 13 survival points that he had obtained before and the 5 that Shun Long already had, he had now gathered 25 survival points. After throwing away the sect jades, Shun Long and the rest finally started eating the blood wolf's meat. "Ah, this meat is so tasty. Yes, senior brother, we should eat this wolf meat more often." "I agree, senior brother, this is so good." As the 3 girls were praising the taste of the meat, Shun Long could even sense that his body had started to slowly absorb the energy inside it. Chi cultivators could also use the energy inside the meat of magic beasts to replenish their chi faster, but it wouldn't help them advance in cultivation. However, it was completely different for body refinement cultivators. Shun Long could sense that although minimal, his body was slowly becoming stronger as he consumed the magic beast meat. Yong-ru just smiled at the 3 girls' words as he asked, "Was it that easy for us to kill this group of blood wolves?" The 3 girls' faces turned red from embarrassment. If they weren't lucky enough to meet Shun Long earlier, they wouldn't be eating blood wolves' meat, but instead the wolves would be having a grand feast right now. Yong-ru was still smiling as he saw the 3 embarrassed girls and said, "Don't worry, if I manage to advance 2 more minor stages and reach the peak of rank 3 in Earth grade, then we can hunt 4 blood wolves without any problems." Then Yong-ru's eyes turned serious as he said, "This will probably be the last time that we will get to be so relaxed in this sect exam. From now on we will have to be more careful, as we will soon enter the inner regions of the demonic mountain region." "Senior brother, what do you mean by inner region?" Ming-Zhu asked, as everyone's attention was on Yong-ru. "My grandfather told me that the demonic mountain region is split into 3 main parts. The outer region where we are right now, the inner region where we will soon enter, and the most dangerous of them all where few people enter and even fewer survive, the central region where the central mountain lies. The outer region is the weakest, where you'll only find rank 1 magic beasts, or, at worst, early rank 2 magic beasts roaming around. There are of course some very rare places in the outer region where even higher rank magic beasts reside, but they will usually stay in their territories and you should avoid provoking them at all costs. However, the inner region is completely different. One wrong step in there, and our entire group is dead. One wrong step in there, and our entire group is dead. Although the demonic mountain region covered a vast distance of over 5,000 miles, the biggest problem was the many magic beasts that were increasing in strength as they walked deeper inside the region, so they had to proceed with caution. The three girls sucked in a cold breath, while Shun Long had already estimated that, even without Yongru's warning, senior brother, are the magic beasts in the inner region that much stronger compared to the outer region? Fei Fong asked nervously. The outer region could only be considered a playground if you compared it with the inner region. Not only are most of the beasts at the middle stage of rank 2 or higher, but there is a possibility that we will even meet rank 3 magic beasts in there. Then, senior brother, how about we don't dash? Yongru cut her off as he said. Even though it's dangerous, the deeper we go inside the demonic mountain region, the bigger the benefits we will be able to obtain from the chi eruption of the central mountain. Don't worry, there is also a safe place in the inner region as well. The three girls' eyes darted between each other as they looked at Yongru pleadingly, who then sighed as he asked, "Why did you even want to come along if you are that afraid? You can just stay in the outer region if that's the case. Me and Brother Shun can just go to the inner region by ourselves." But it's true that there is a safe place. Almost every disciple who makes it to the inner region will probably gather there to rest and take shelter as they wait for the chi eruption to start. The three girls hanged their heads low in embarrassment. Yongru had probably seen through their intentions already. Before they entered the demonic mountain region, the three girls had insisted on following Yongru inside, in order to form a better relationship with him and hopefully rely on him when they returned back to the Roaring Wind Pavilion. But now, after hearing about the dangers in the inner region, and after they were almost killed twice in the first day in the outer region, these girls no longer had the courage to follow Shun Long and Yongru inside. Shun Long sighed inside with disappointment. No matter what, in the end, not only did the three girls forget that Yongru had fought for them twice already today, but they also chose to abandon him now that they learned of the dangers inside. Master, don't be disappointed. Such is human nature. Not many people are willing to do things that will put their lives in danger. I understand. Yongru needs to search for a hellflower and he also wants to absorb the chi from the central mountain, while these girls only wanted to rely on him. Now that their goals don't align, or should I say, now that they don't consider the benefits good enough to risk their lives over, they decided to abandon him. Shun Long shook his head as he left that scene and climbed atop of a tree to cultivate for the night. Yongru had a ridiculing smile on his face as he said, "I was such a fool to not understand earlier the reason that you wanted to travel together. You truly understand a person only when you are in a difficult situation. After all, everyone can add flowers to a brocade, but few people will actually send charcoal during the snow. Let us part ways here then. Senior brother Yong." As he finished speaking, Yongru walked in the distance as he too climbed on a tree near Shun Long and closed his eyes. Dejected, the three girls didn't have any reason to stay around as they left towards the outskirts of the region. Yongru opened his eyes as he saw them walking away and thought that if they were lucky, they would find a place to peacefully wait out the period of 1 month until the sect examination ends. After a few hours, the sun soon rose, and the morning rays warmed Shun Long's body as he opened his eyes. His cultivation was slowly advancing towards the middle of the rank 8 in chi condensation. It would probably take a few days to advance, but fighting in the demonic mountain region was also helping him get accustomed to the rapid increase in his strength. Yongru seemed to have just opened his eyes as well, as he greeted Shun Long. After eating some fruits from a few nearby trees, their group of 2 started walking towards the inner region. Traveling by just the 2 of them, Shun Long and Yongru didn't waste much time in their journey. Shun Long had Little Black constantly scan the way, so he could avoid any situations that they couldn't deal with. They traveled during the day while they cultivated during the night. Their second day proved to be relatively uneventful. Aside from meeting one early rank 2 magic beast and a few rank 1 beasts, nothing notable happened. The central mountain was estimated to erupt in around 15 days since the disciples had first entered the region, but it could still erupt earlier or later than the 4 sects' original estimations. Hence, it was better to get to the inner region earlier. On the third day, however, as Shun Long and Yongru were heading towards the inner region, They were ambushed by a big group of people. There were more than 15 people in this group as they threateningly surrounded the two of them. The disciples in this group belonged to the Flying Sword sect and, surprisingly, the Floating Cloud sect. A woman in yellow robes as well as a man dressed in white with a red sword strapped on his waist walked out from the front of the group. The woman was around 16 years old with a pretty face and beautiful blonde hair as she looked at Shun Long and Yongru before saying in a commanding tone, "Hand over your sect-identifying jades, and we will allow you to pass." Of course, Little Black had already warned Shun Long about the ambush beforehand, but he didn't bother changing directions. He was participating in the outer sect examination. What would he gain by avoiding every fight? After taking a look at the blonde young woman and sensing her early rank 3 Earth grade strength, Shun Long's eyes focused on the white-robed young man. This young man who had a red sword on his waist was at the middle stage of rank 3 in Earth grade, and he was the strongest person in their group. The man's eyes were also staring intently at Shun Long, as he then turned his head to look at the pretty young woman beside him before speaking gently. "Lei Xiang, I will take care of this guy. You can take care of that guy from the Roaring Wind Pavilion. Teeming, are you okay?" The blonde girl asked the young man after she saw him staring at Shun Long intently. Teeming had a feeling that Shun Long was more dangerous than Yongru, even though he couldn't sense his strength, so he decided to test him out directly. As for the rest of the disciples, they had surrounded Shun Long and Yongru as they waited for orders. Although Lei Xiang was also from the Floating Cloud sect, she didn't have any scruples teaming up with a disciple of the Flying Sword sect or attacking another disciple from her sect. You could do anything you wanted in this outer sect examination, after all, and the sect wouldn't care. Yongru pulled out his blue sword as he stared at Lei Xiang, who was holding a yellow bow in her hands. "What do you think? Do you feel like surrendering your survival points now?" Lei Xiang asked Yongru smilingly. Yongru shook his head as he charged straight towards her. Shun Long instead looked at Teeming, who had unsheathed his bright red sword as he said to the disciples around him, "Make sure to assist Lei Xiang properly." As they heard Teeming's words, both the disciples from the Flying Sword sect, as well as the Floating Cloud sect who had surrounded them, charged towards Yongru while Lei Xiang had taken cover behind the trees as she shot arrow after arrow at him. "Draw your weapon," Teeming said sternly, but Shun Long simply shook his head as he clenched his left fist. He could use his monarch's domain to take care of the guys attacking Yongru as well as this Teeming, but he didn't do so for 2 reasons. The first reason was that Yongru had already seen the inexplicable scenario where Wang Hua had died in a split second a few days ago, and he would instantly connect the dots if the same thing happened again now. While the second reason was that Yongru didn't seem to be in a bad spot and was seemingly smiling as he fought the disciples of the Flying Sword sect and the Floating Cloud sect. These disciples' strength was ranging between rank 9 in Qi condensation, while the strongest among them was just at the middle rank 1 in Earth grade. However, Lei Xiang's arrows that were covering these disciples were truly dangerous. "Are you looking down on me?" Teeming roared in anger after seeing that Shun Long wasn't using a weapon, as he then rushed towards him with his sword in hand. Shun Long didn't directly attack Teeming and instead focused on dodging his attacks. With the enhancement in his speed from the monarch's eternal body, he could actually keep up with Teeming's fast attacks as he dodged his sword again and again. Teeming was advancing forward while Shun Long was moving backwards, but no attack had connected with him just yet. This was a very frustrating fighting style where you couldn't hit your opponent no matter how hard you swung your sword, but the truth was that this was dangerous for Shun Long as well. It wasn't easy to avoid a sword every time, and it took a lot of mental focus as well as immense physical strength to keep up with the speed of Teeming's sword. And yet, Shun Long could sense that he was getting better and better at fighting the more this fight dragged on. He had already spotted a few openings during Teeming's attacks, but because he wasn't prepared earlier, he couldn't take advantage of them. Teeming seemed to be getting increasingly frustrated as beads of sweat were now rolling off his face as he roared, "Is dodging all you can do, brat?" Shun Long, however, ignored him as he continued to dodge repeatedly. Although his body had been reforged from scratch with the help of the monarch's eternal body, Teeming's sword was definitely at rank 3 bronze grade if not higher, and Shun Long was sure that he wouldn't be able to withstand it just yet if his fist were to directly clash with a rank 3 bronze grade sword. Teeming was starting to get tired after hacking with his sword unsuccessfully for such a long time. Hitting your opponent and missing them were two completely different concepts. Constantly hitting the air affected not only your physical performance but your mental ability as well, as it both tired the mind and the body much more compared to if your attacks were getting blocked. Teeming had started hacking senselessly around him, feeling extremely frustrated, as Shun Long's eyes narrowed while he gathered his strength in his right hand. As Teeming's sword once again slashed the air, Shun Long's right hand directly collided with Teeming's lower ribs as a cracking sound was heard loudly before he was sent flying through the air. Shun Long had used more than 80% of his strength in this punch, and the results were devastating. Teeming's body flew through the air as it landed a few dozen meters away, on Yongru's and Lei Xiang's battlefield. No! A woman's scream was heard as Teeming landed on the ground in the midst of their fight, while he was clutching tightly his left ribcage as he then screamed in pain. Lei Xiang rushed to his side, and the fight suddenly halted while everyone's eyes turned towards Shun Long. Yongru looked at him too as he laughed loudly, drawing everyone's attention as he walked by his side. Haha, as expected of Brother Shun. Shun Long smiled at him as he asked, "Are you okay?" "Just a few cuts here and there, but I'm okay. I haven't been able to fight like this before in my life. I will make you pay for this." Lei Xiang's voice was suddenly heard as she looked at Shun Long with eyes full of hatred. Shun Long, however, looked at her disdainfully as he said, "Hand over your sect-identifying jades quickly." "What?" Lei Xiang's voice was incredulous as she couldn't believe what she had heard. This guy wanted to rob them instead? Yongru looked at her as if he was looking at an idiot and asked, "Didn't you want to rob us first?" "Of course, you will lose your sect-identifying jades now. What do you have to complain about anyway? Isn't this a survival test in the first place? Do you know who I am?" Lei Xiang completely ignored Yongru's logical words as she looked at Shun Long and spoke in a threatening tone. Shun Long's look in his eyes chilled when all of a sudden Teeming struggled to stand up before he threw his sect jade over.
"Brother, E."
Lei Xiang looked at Teeming, who in return simply shook his head at her. Shun Long grabbed his sect jade and took his survival points that had already reached a staggering number of 43. Lei Xiang gritted her teeth as she also threw her sect jade at Shun Long. After Shun Long took Teeming's, Lei Xiang's, as well as the rest of all their survival points, he now had close to 120 of them. Yongru was laughing in schadenfreude as he looked at Lei Xiang, whose eyes looked as they were about to spit fire after having lost all of her survival points, and said in a mocking tone, "You are Lei Xiang, right? Are you going to cry to your elder brother after you return to the Floating Cloud sect? It's simply bad luck that you tried to rob me and Brother Shun, though.
You."
Lei Xiang was extremely angry, but she didn't know what to say as she watched Shun Long and Yongru leisurely heading deeper towards the inner region. After taking a deep breath, she asked Teeming, "Brother, what happened back then?" Teeming lowered his head as he whispered, "Xianger, that guy is a monster. He is a body-refining cultivator."
"What?"
"You mean that he is the same as De Chong from the Iron-Hardened sect?" "He is the same type of cultivator as De Chong, but he is definitely weaker than him in terms of strength. De Chong beats people with his immense physical strength, while this kid used his speed to beat me. I'm not sure if he is a match for De Chong at all, but he is definitely more than what we can handle now." Teeming shook his head as he answered, "Humph. Since he is a member of my Floating Cloud sect, I will definitely have my brother teach him a lesson when we return." Lei Xiang frowned, and her pretty face was filled with displeasure as she thought of this guy who stole all of her survival points. Meanwhile, Shun Long and Yongru were walking deeper inside as Yongru said, "Brother Shun, I have 3 important things to tell you." Shun Long then looked at Yongru, who continued speaking. "The first thing is this girl named Lei Xiang. Although she by herself isn't anything to worry about, I need to warn you about her elder brother. You have certainly heard about him since you are an outer disciple of the Floating Cloud sect. Her elder brother is Lei Pong. Brother Shun, I'm saying this so you can be prepared when you return back in your sect, as this person may personally find trouble with you for messing with his sister. Although we didn't do anything that went against any sect rules, petty-minded people like Lei Xiang will definitely look to get back at us in the future. Shun Long heard this and laughed coldly inside. If he managed to get first place in this sect examination and get the blood vermilion fruit, then he would probably be a match for Lei Pong by himself then. As Yongru looked at Shun Long, who seemed to be slightly smiling, he continued, I'm certain that with your strength, Brother Shun, you will definitely try to enter the top 3 in the overall sect rankings for this examination, right? In that case, there are 2 things that you need to pay attention to. The survival points that you have gathered up to now are not even enough to enter the top 100. I don't know exactly how many points you will need to enter the top 3, but it will definitely be at least 5.000 of them. And also, since you aim to get in the top 3 rankings, there are 3 people that you need to pay close attention to in this sect examination. These people are all at the peak of rank 3 in Earth grade, but it is rumored that their strength is even a match for some early rank 4 Earth grade experts. Shun Long's eyes shone as he was intrigued by this. Seeing that he had captured his attention, Yongru said, one of these 3 people is my senior sister from the Roaring Wind Pavilion, and I'm sure that you have heard of her before. Her name is Jiaomingxia. Yongru looked at him expectantly as he was certain that Shun Long would have heard of his senior sister's name, but when he looked at his face, Yongru felt like a deflated balloon that had just lost all of its air. Brother Shun, you don't tell me that you don't know who my senior sister is. Shun Long looked at him and answered matter-of-factly, as he nodded his head. Never heard of her before. Yongru felt like an arrow had just pierced his heart as he said, Then Brother Shun, let me explain. My senior sister, Jiaomingxia, is a very strong ice element cultivator, and she is probably the strongest out of everyone else in this sect exam. I'm not looking down on you, Brother Shun, but you are probably not a match for my senior sister at all. Aside from my senior sister, though, there are 2 more people that you must be wary of, brother. One of them is the son of the sect master from the Iron-Hardened sect. People call him the Little Giant, De Chong. You probably saw him when Sect Master De Chao was arguing with the Grand Elder of the Flying Sword sect when we were at the Demonic Mountain region's entrance. It is rumored that De Chong is a body-refining cultivator, as well as the person with the strongest physical strength in the sect exam. The last of the 3 is the grandson of the Grand Elder from the Flying Sword sect, Hui Ming. Aside from him being a sword cultivator like most of the disciples in the Flying Sword sect, I don't have any other information about him. As Yongru finished speaking, Little Black's voice was heard inside Shun Long's head. Master, sword cultivators are usually extremely proficient in attacking techniques, as well as in swiftly killing their opponents. I guess that the reason why people don't know much about this Hui Ming is so he can keep his trump cards hidden. Shun Long nodded his head as he was now interested in meeting these 3 people. One of them was the woman who Yongru called the strongest in this sect exam. Although Shun Long didn't take his words to heart, there must still be something special in this woman for Yongru to say something like that. The other one was a strong body-refining cultivator just like Shun Long, while the last one was the strongest sword cultivator from the Flying Sword sect that was participating in this exam. Yongru then continued, Aside from Brother Shun, your Floating Cloud sect must have some peak rank 3 Earth grade cultivators as well, but none of them is a match for those 3 that I just mentioned. Brother Shun, even though I know you are strong, you cannot take those 3 lightly. Shun Long walked towards Yongru and patted him on the shoulder as he said, Thank you. Heading deeper towards the inner region, the 2 didn't meet with any more surprises on the way. Apart from the magic beasts that were at the early rank 2 and needed some effort from Shun Long to get killed, the rest of their journey was easy. On the 5th day, Shun Long and Yongru arrived in front of a huge plains area. There were almost 20 people, forming 3 different groups, all of them being disciples of the 4 sects. As the 2 walked in, everyone had turned their heads to observe the newcomers. The people who had already managed to arrive here were all in the Earth grade, with some of them having already reached the peak of rank 3. Yongru looked at Shun Long as he said, Brother Shun, we are now in the inner region. This is the safe area where most disciples in the Earth grade will gather. As we came too early, it is relatively empty. That's why we don't see many people here. But in the next 5 to 10 days, This place will surely get crowded, as no one will want to miss the opportunity to absorb the qi from the central mountain. Shun Long's eyes were focused ahead, deeper inside the demonic mountain region, as he could faintly make out the shadow of a few huge mountain peaks, when Little Black's voice was heard in his head. Master, I am certain that there is an extraordinary treasure in this demonic mountain region. Shun Long nodded his head as he responded telepathically to Little Black. I had guessed so as well. The qi around us has more than doubled in density and purity compared to when we were on the outskirts a few days ago. I assume that the deeper inside we head, the purer the qi we absorb will be, all the way until we reach the central mountain. You are right, Master. But this won't be an easy journey for us. Master, you should probably leave that Yongru fellow here. He will only become a burden to us later on, and there is a high chance that he may die as we head deeper inside. At the same time, Yongru's voice was heard as he looked at Shun Long and asked, Brother Shun, how about we stay here in this place, while we wait for the qi eruption to start? Shun Long, however, shook his head as he replied, Brother, it's better if we part ways here for now. I'm going to enter deeper inside the inner region. Yongru's eyes widened as he asked in a trembling voice, Brother Ascension, are you serious? It is too dangerous to wander around the inner region. Shun Long looked at Yongru as he nodded his head and said, I have my reasons for heading deeper in the inner region. Although it is dangerous, this is something that I have to do. Yongru gritted his teeth as he said, I will follow you then, brother. Yongru gritted his teeth as he said, I will follow you then, brother. Shun Long shook his head after he heard Yongru's words and said, It's better if I go alone. We should part ways for now and meet again after the qi eruption of the central mountain ends. Yongru sighed in his heart as he understood that he would be a burden with his strength if he followed Shun Long in the inner region. He was barely of any help while they were traveling through the outer region. He then took a deep breath as he said to Shun Long, Brother Shun, you have to be careful. The inner region is extremely dangerous, and there are many rank 3 beasts here. Shun Long nodded his head as he responded, I know. Let's meet again after the central mountain's eruption then. After parting ways, Shun Long headed deeper inside the inner region. Everyone sitting in the safe area turned their heads to look at him as he was leaving and started discussing between themselves. Who is this guy? He dares to enter the inner region by himself. Seems like he came together with senior brother Yong. So what? Isn't he just a normal disciple from the Floating Cloud sect? That's right, the Floating Cloud sect doesn't have anyone at the same level as our senior sister anyway. Even our senior sister didn't dare to walk alone inside the inner region. Exactly. Does this guy think that he is at the same level as the 3 geniuses? He will certainly die for overestimating himself. Discussions were taking place between the 3 groups that were stationed in the safe area, but Shun Long completely ignored them as he walked forward. If other people headed deeper inside the inner region, they would surely be suicidal no matter how big their group was, if they were just rank 3 Earth-grade cultivators. However, Shun Long was different. He had a trump card to rely on that could take care of the magic beasts in the inner region. After traveling forward for a bit more than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, this is approximately 10 to 15 minutes, Shun Long had already left the safe area far behind him when Little Black's voice sounded in his head. Master, I can sense 2 rank 3 magic beasts. One of them is 17 miles towards the west while the other one is 23 miles to our south. Let's go towards the west first since it is closer. Do you sense any humans anywhere near us? No, Master. There are only magic beasts here. If there are any humans, then they must be more than 30 miles away from us for me to be unable to sense them. Good, then let's go. Shun Long said as he summoned Little Black from the Stone of Time. Although Shun Long hadn't summoned him when he was in the outskirts, that was because there were far too many disciples there while there were barely any threats to Shun Long's life, aside from beasts like the double-headed fish or the iron-winged eagle. But the inner region was different. The magic beasts here were all far stronger than what Shun Long could handle alone, while the human groups were practically non-existent, and with Little Black's powerful soul, sensing their surroundings, Shun Long didn't have many things to worry about. A 3 meters, 10 feet, tall black dragon had then appeared in front of him. Little Black stretched his head as Shun Long climbed on his neck, and sitting on his back he said, "Let's go." Little Black spread his majestic black wings as he soared from the ground, heading directly towards the west. A huge gust of air hit the ground as the black dragon flapped his wings, soaring in the sky, causing every magic beast that sensed his aura to immediately prostrate themselves. Dragons were, after all, kings among magic beasts. Shun Long was enjoying the view, as well as the feeling of flying, while he was sitting on top of Little Black's back, and in a very short time they had arrived outside a small cave. The cave was about 2 meters (6.5 feet) in height, but it was wide enough for 3 people to walk inside it side by side. Screech! As soon as Little Black and Shun Long arrived outside of the cave, a screeching sound was heard as a swarm of black bats flew towards them.
Roar.
Little Black opened his mouth as he roared towards the swarm of black bats that were attacking them from the cave. As the sound of this roar hit the bats, all of them crashed into the ground with blood flowing from their ears. More than 20 rank 2 bats had directly died from a single roar. A black shadow flew from the cave as it directly tried to escape through the air. It's actually a middle rank 3 red-fanged flame bat. Little Black quickly, "Don't let it escape." "Don't worry, Master. How could it ever escape from us?" Little Black flapped his wings and the distance from the bat was immediately halved. The red-fanged flame bat was a magic beast at the middle stages of rank 3, but as soon as it had sensed Little Black's aura outside its cave, it was instantly terrified as it fled without a second thought. The aura of a dragon, a king of magic beasts, was one of the most terrifying things to every living being. Forget about a middle-stage rank 3 magic beast like the red-fanged flame bat. Little Black could probably fight against even a middle-stage rank 4 magic beast right now, and he would only get stronger in the future as he recovers his strength. In almost no time, Shun Long and Little Black had arrived above the flame bat's head as Little Black used his talons to grab the bat's wings. The bat screeched loudly as Little Black brutally tore its wings from its body, making it crash on the ground. A small pool of blood had formed beneath the bat's body while it was still struggling to move and escape from this monster that was chasing it. Little Black's talons landed on the bat's neck that was now on the ground as it brutally teared off its head. Finally, the bat stopped breathing as a pitch-black core rolled off from its now torn head into the ground. Shun Long fiddled with the beast core in his hand for a while before putting it inside the Stone of Time space along with the bat's body. Although the red-fanged flame bat's body wasn't edible, parts of it could still be used as ingredients for alchemy, while its fangs could be used by formation masters to create silver-grade weapons. Aside from the red-fanged flame bat, there was still that swarm of rank 2 bats that could be sold for a good price in the treasure pavilion. Although rank 2 magic beasts rarely had a beast core in their bodies, the rest of their body parts would usually fetch a good price. After Shun Long put everything inside the Stone of Time, he walked towards the cave that the bats were living in. Little Black looked at his master, but his own body was too big to enter the small cave, so he couldn't help asking, "Master, do you think that there will be anything good inside this cave?" Although the chance is minimal, the truth is that when the red-fanged flame bat inhabits a cave, the powerful qi that it oozes from its body will sometimes be absorbed into its surroundings to produce rare alchemy materials. One of those materials is the rank 3 Hell Flower. Shun Long remembered that Yongru needed this flower for his grandfather. However, after searching the cave, Shun Long was confused as well as a bit disappointed to not having found anything of use. Apparently, the red-fanged flame bat's qi hadn't produced anything inside the cave. After Shun Long failed to find anything inside, he left the cave as he climbed atop Little Black's back before he pondered for a while. "I don't understand. I could sense some qi inside the cave, but it was very faint both in quality and quantity. Unless the bats had started living in this cave today, the qi here shouldn't have been so faint. However, based on their sheer numbers, it's impossible for them to have migrated here today. Little Black, can you sense anything?" Shun Long was truly perplexed this time, and his senses weren't strong enough to understand what was going on, so his only option was asking Little Black. The black dragon closed his eyes as he sensed his surroundings for a long time. After that, He abruptly opened his eyes with an unfathomable glint inside them as he looked towards Shun Long and once again said telepathically, "Master, you were right. There should have been enough yin qi in the air to create some precious medicinal herbs, but—" After that, Little Black turned his head to look outside of the cave as he continued, "It's all been sucked away." Shun Long's eyes widened as he looked at Little Black incredulously before asking, "Can you sense who is sucking away the yin qi then?" "Master, it's not just the yin qi here. Aside from the pure qi in the air, every other kind of qi in the surrounding 30 miles is all being sucked deeper inside towards the central region." A chill run through Shun Long's spine as he heard Little Black's words. What kind of existence did it have to be able to absorb every kind of energy, and from so many miles away? Something is wrong. No matter what kind of magic beast it is, as long as it hasn't reached an extremely high rank, it shouldn't be able to absorb every other kind of energy, like the yin qi from the red-fanged flame bat, while being so far away. Shun Long surmised after thinking about it thoroughly. Master is right. Even if I wanted to absorb the yin qi here, I wouldn't be able to do this from more than 1 mile away, and I am a black dragon. I refuse to believe that there is a peak rank 5 magic beast inside this demonic mountain region that would do this. Shun Long nodded his head at Little Black's words as he said, "We will find out everything when we enter the central region, so there is no need to worry about it just yet. It's time to go towards the south." The black dragon stretched his majestic pitch-black wings after hearing Shun Long's words and flew towards the south where he had sensed another rank 3 magic beast earlier before. His flying speed was extremely fast, bringing a sense of horror to the magic beasts that saw a black dragon flying in the sky as they hurriedly cowered away inside their nests and caves. Little Black and Shun Long quickly arrived in front of a small forest. Little Black's speed didn't decrease at all as he headed towards one of the tallest trees in the distance. The tree was green and more than 8 meters, 26 feet, tall, but its branches had a bright yellow color towards their ends that resembled flower petals. Shun Long's eyes glinted while Little Black opened his mouth and spat out a black ball of fire towards the tree. The tree immediately turned to black ashes as a small green beast core could be found inside them. Little Black snorted disdainfully after reducing the tree to ashes and said, "Just an early rank 3 man-eating tree, and it thought that it would escape my senses." Shun Long grabbed the beast core of the man-eating tree, and after storing it inside the Stone of Time, he asked Little Black if he could sense any other rank 3 magic beasts around them. The pair of the young man riding his dragon flew nonstop as they relentlessly hunted every rank 3 magic beasts they found in their vicinity. After almost 1 day of hunting, Shun Long's spatial space had been filled with all sorts of rank 3 beasts. Most of these magic beasts could easily kill heaven-grade experts as easily as killing chickens, and yet, Shun Long's spatial space had nearly a dozen of them now. Little Black looked at his smiling master that was now collecting the body of a rank 3 magic beast they had just killed, and he too smiled as he looked in the distance ahead of them, towards the central region before he sent a message to Shun Long. "Master, we are now very close to the central region. If there is a chance, we should also hunt an early rank 4 magic beast." As Little Black finished speaking, however, he saw that Shun Long's eyes had turned serious as he said resolutely,
"No."
Little Black looked at Shun Long puzzledly as he said, "Master, won't the body of a rank 4 magic beast be of great help? Although it may prove a bit hard to kill one, I am still more than 80% certain of being able to kill any early rank 4 beast with my current strength. We have nothing to worry about, and even if the rumored peak rank 4 magic beast from the central mountain comes, we can still flee then. Even if it is some kind of aerial flying beast, it will certainly be unable to match me in terms of speed." Little Black's words were spoken with absolute confidence. Shun Long, however, shook his head as he replied, "Although the body of a rank 4 beast would be of tremendous help to me, there is something even more important in this demonic mountain region for us. Additionally, if you fight with a rank 4 magic beast, even if you swiftly kill it, you will certainly attract the attention of even stronger magic beasts. The central region isn't the inner region after all, and I assume that there are more than just a few rank 4 magic beasts inside. Before we find out about the treasure of the central mountain, we can attract the attention of the strong magic beasts in the central region." Little Black didn't speak anymore as Shun Long walked in front of him and patted his head as continued. Don't worry, after we find out what the secret of the central mountain is, we may still have time to hunt a rank 4 magic beast. After Shun Long finished speaking, he noticed that it was almost nighttime by now. After hunting magic beasts for the entire day, Shun Long had already arrived just a few dozen miles away from the central region. After finding a secluded cave in a mountain peak close by, he had Little Black ensure that there were no magic beasts around them before he started cultivating. Taking a deep breath inside the cave, Shun Long felt the chi around him madly rushing towards him. The quality of the chi here is truly much better compared to the outer region. Perhaps I can even break through to the middle stage of rank 8 tonight. Sitting cross-legged in the middle of the cave, Shun Long circulated the monarch's hourglass as he absorbed the pure chi in this place. Little Black was also cultivating, but he hadn't entered a state where he was unable to sense his surroundings like Shun Long, and was instead keeping watch of their surroundings at all times. 3 hours soon passed, and a small popping sound could be heard from Shun Long's body as he then opened his eyes and exclaimed joyously, I managed to reach the middle stage of rank 8 in chi condensation in such a short amount of time. Just 3 hours of cultivating here is more efficient than 5 full days of cultivation in the outer region. Taking advantage of the opportunity to cultivate in this place, Shun Long quickly closed his eyes as he once again activated the monarch's hourglass, absorbing the chi around him. Morning soon came, and as the sun rose, Shun Long finally stopped cultivating. After stretching his hands and feet for a while, he walked out of the cave and patted Little Black's head as he said, Little Black, when we enter the central region, it's better for you to stay in the Stone of Time. The dragon's eyes widened as he heard this, and anxiously he asked, Master, it is too dangerous for you. What if you dash? Shun Long patted his head as he said,
I know.
But it's also dangerous if you're exposed. We could do as we please in the inner region, but if the magic beasts in the central region turn their attention towards us, then the best we can do will be to flee by then. Shun Long saw the dejected dragon as he said, Don't worry, if I really get in a dangerous situation, you can always come out and help me. Little Black nodded his head as he went inside the Stone of Time, before he used his powerful soul to sense Shun Long's surroundings. Shun Long had 3 major advantages that gave him enough confidence to walk by himself towards the central region that was now just a few dozen miles away from him. The first was Little Black's soul sensing, which could warn him for most dangers beforehand. The second was the monarch's eternal body that had both increased his physical strength and his ability to tear space and escape a few dozen meters away. Shun Long was also certain that after refining the profound earth fruit into a pill, his monarch's eternal body would become a lot stronger. If I concoct and consume the pill before the sect examination ends, by the time I finish absorbing the pill's medicinal effects, I would have probably already run out of time to gather enough survival points to first place. However, the third and most important advantage that he had was the monarch's hourglass ability to completely conceal his aura. As long as he was careful enough, he could probably avoid most of the dangers as he explored the central region. After more than 2 hours, Shun Long had arrived precisely 300 miles away from the tallest mountain in the demonic mountain region, the Central Mountain. The Central Mountain was nearly 10.000 meters, 32.800 feet, tall, while the 300 miles around it was what everyone categorized as the Central Region. Shun Long took a deep breath to calm his rising heartbeat as he looked at the Central Mountain, and taking a step forward, he finally entered the Central Region. Stepping inside, Shun Long felt the increasing quality of the chi in the air around him, as it was being absorbed by the magic beasts living in the Central Region. Master, you have to be careful inside. I can sense many magic beasts, and none of them is below the rank 3 foot. Little Black warned Shun Long as he used his soul to sense everything in a 30-mile radius around him. Shun Long nodded as he asked, Little Black, won't we get discovered by the magic beasts here if you keep using your soul to sense the surroundings? Don't worry, Master. Unless a magic beast has already reached the rank 5, it is impossible for it to notice my soul sense. Shun Long breathed out in relief, but he was still extremely careful as he slowly headed deeper inside. The magic beasts in the central region were all at the rank 3 or even higher, and attracting their attention would be disastrous. Beast roars could be heard everywhere around Shun Long, as the central region seemed to be a constant battlefield for the magic beasts here. After all, this was the place with the purest chi in the entire demonic mountain region, so how could the fighting here be avoided? However, with Little Black's directions, Shun Long had managed to avoid the lurking dangers around him as he headed deeper inside. Anyone who had the guts to enter the central region would witness abundant scenes of rank 3 magic beasts fighting and killing each other. However, these scenes had started to become less frequent as Shun Long entered deeper inside the region, while the strength of the magic beasts around him grew stronger and stronger the closer he approached to the central mountain. After 8 hours of careful walking and detouring, Shun Long had arrived in front of a huge lake that was 150 miles away from the central mountain. The lake was more than 10 miles wide, and if Shun Long wanted to reach the central mountain, he either had to go through it or go around it. On the left side of the lake, there was a big mountain, while on its right, one could see a large, lush forest. Little Black, can you sense anything? Master, the lake is extremely dangerous. I can sense a magic beast lurking inside that is very close to the peak of rank 4, so we will have to take a detour. Inside the forest on our right, I can sense a middle rank 4 aerial magic beast, as well as quite a big number of rank 3 beasts, while in the mountain on our left, I can only sense the aura of an early rank 4 magic beast, but I can't identify what kind of beast it is yet. So, I think it's best if Master passes through the mountain. Shun Long thought deeply for a while, before he shook his head and said, "We will go through the forest." Little Black was confused after hearing that they will go through the path that had the most magic beasts. One could argue that this forest was even more deadly than the lake. Sensing the dragon's bewilderment, Shun Long laughed lightly as he explained, "The lake is obviously impossible to traverse if we don't fly over it, which leaves us with only the mountain and the lush forest as our options. However, although the forest looks to be more dangerous at first glance, in reality, this is actually the best choice for us. Since the middle stage rank 4 beast inside it is a flying-type magic beast, it will most likely have a bad sense of smell." Little Black's eyes inside the Stone of Time glistened brightly as he heard Shun Long's words. "Meanwhile, we don't know what kind of magic beast that early rank for living on the mountain really is. If it's not an aerial beast, then even with me hiding my aura, there is still a chance that it will locate me through my smell. But even if it is a flying magic beast, while I can use the environment of the trees to hide myself in the forest, there won't really be any place to take cover in a mountain." Little Black was dazed for a good while. As a dragon, he would never consider the physical attributes of other magic beasts. He would simply use his strength to do everything he wanted. But Shun Long seemed to have thought through everything and had already calculated the best route to take. Entering the forest, Shun Long found nearly a dozen rank 2 medicinal herbs lying around. However, not a single rank 3 herb was anywhere in sight. "I guess that the magic beasts here have already hoarded the good stuff," Shun Long sighed as he kept walking forward. The forest had more than 10 magic beasts lying in wait inside, but Shun Long easily avoided them with Little Black's soul sense. Nearly 2 hours later, Shun Long arrived in front of a stream, as he saw a huge bird more than 5 meters, 16 feet, tall, sleeping atop a big tree at the other side of the bank. "This is a 4-winged ice bird," Shun Long mumbled as he looked at the sleeping bird atop the tall tree. The bird had 4 icy blue wings wrapped around it that were in stark contrast with its brown body and red beak. To pass through the forest, Shun Long had to get to the other side of the bank. If he actually wanted to swim through the stream, or even jump all the way to the other side, he would definitely end up waking the magic beast. However, Shun Long simply smiled and thanked his lucky stars that the bird was asleep, as he clenched his right hand and punched the air in front of him. As his fist hit the air, a space tear big enough to fit a person was formed as Shun Long entered it and instantly arrived at the other side of the bank. Almost as if sensing something, right after Shun Long entered the space tear, the 4-winged ice bird snapped open its eyes as it looked around the stream. Although it didn't find anyone, the magic beast was now keeping a vigilant watch over its surroundings. As a middle stage rank 4 beast, The four-winged ice bird's senses and intelligence were nothing to scoff at. Thankfully, Shun Long had instantly taken cover underneath a tree, before opening another space tear to flee deeper inside the forest. At the same time that Shun Long entered the second space tear, the four-winged ice bird suddenly set its sights on the tree that he had taken cover at earlier. After flapping its wings, the bird instantly arrived in front of that tree. All four of its wings then lit up with a snow-white light as shards of ice had suddenly formed on them. Flapping its wings once again, the four-winged ice bird sent a barrage of ice flying at the tree, filling it with countless holes. Only after seeing that there wasn't anyone there did the bird finally leave. Shun Long sighed in relief a few tens of meters away after seeing this scene. This four-winged ice bird is really terrifying. I didn't make the slightest sound, and yet it still seemed to have somehow felt my presence. Master definitely didn't leave any traces behind after your spatial leap. It was probably the bird's intuition that alarmed it, Little Black exclaimed with confidence. Earlier, he was ready to jump out from the stone of time and fight against the four-winged ice bird if its attack was about to threaten Shun Long. After a few more hours, night had already fallen as Shun Long finally reached the end of the huge forest. He could now clearly see the huge central mountain that was just a few miles away. The mountain had many caves in it, and surprisingly, it was void of any vegetation. Forget about trees, not even a single plant existed on it. Master, I can sense two presences inside that mountain, Little Black said after he sent his soul to scan through it. Two? Shun Long asked confused. Could it be that there are two magic beasts instead of one in the central mountain? Little Black nodded his head at Shun Long's question as he continued. Master, actually, I don't understand what is going on here. There seem to be two presences, but only one of them seems to actually be alive. Even Little Black, who had lived for so many years, hadn't met with such a situation before. Shun Long pondered over it for a bit, before he decided to rest for the night and continue towards the central mountain tomorrow after his strength had replenished, when a loud screech filled with hatred came from the central mountain, shaking the entire central region. The screech was so powerful that it didn't just shake the entire central region, but also traveled through every single place of the entire demonic mountain region. Even the big shots from the four sects were alarmed, as they looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Grand Elder Huizhong of the Flying Sword sect looked at the other three people around him as he said, "That was definitely the cry of the overlord of the demonic mountain region. Do you think that perhaps someone has managed to anger it?" Everyone looked at Huizhong stupefied before Grand Elder Lan Hong was the first one to respond as he lashed out at him. Nonsense. How could anyone even get close to that magic beast, let alone provoke it? Huizhong, I say, have you gone senile due to your old age? Huizhong was immediately angered by Lan Hong's words as he responded. You are the one who has gone senile, Lan. Do you think that monster would cry out for no reason? Lan Hong snorted disdainfully before the vice pavilion master from the Roaring Wind Pavilion. Li Huiyan came forth to meditate as she said, Seniors, please calm down. There is no mistaking it, as per to whom that beast cry belonged to. However, it's also unlikely that there is anyone strong enough in our desolate east that can fight that bird. Even the head priest of the Golden Buddha Temple doesn't have any confidence in fighting it. However, at that moment Lan Hong's expression suddenly changed as he remembered something that the sect master Lu Jian had said back in the central hall about 2 months ago. Everyone instantly noticed his change in expression as sect master De Chao was the first one to ask. Elder Lan, could it be that you know something about this? Author's note. The usage of the word elder here refers to someone's age, and it isn't the same as the word elder, which refers to someone's status. Lan Hong, however, shook his head as he said, what Vice Pavilion Master Li Huiyan said earlier may not be necessarily true. After taking a deep breath, Lan Hong continued, about 2 months ago, a mysterious person appeared in my floating cloud city. No one managed to communicate with him, aside from a small rank 3 bronze grade alchemist. However, that mysterious person happened to release his aura once, and the entire floating cloud city trembled. Lu Jian then ordered everyone to keep what had happened a secret, as that person had most likely exceeded the spirit realm. Even I wouldn't have mentioned it today if the circumstances weren't as such. Everyone suddenly sucked in a cold breath as they considered the implications of this shocking revelation. After hearing Lan Hong's words, Huizhong asked gravely, "Old man Lan, are you certain that this person has reached that stage then?" Everyone stared intently at Lan Hong, who in return shook his head as he said, "This is just the estimation of Lu Jian. However, even if this person hasn't reached that stage yet, he shouldn't be too far from it." Silence suddenly permeated the place, as this news was like a hammer that struck everyone's hearts. The Vice Pavilion Master, Li Huiyan, suddenly asked, "Then, what will happen to the sect examination?" De Chao and Huizhong's eyes flashed with panic as both their son and grandson were inside the demonic mountain region. "I think that we should cancel this sect exam and summon all the disciples back here." De Chao nodded after hearing Huizhong's words and said, "I agree. Things have gotten out of our control. If every disciple inside dies, then that would be a tragedy for our sections." Lan Hong, who heard their words, immediately understood what they were worried about. He turned his head to look at Li Huiyan as he said, "Vice Pavilion Master, I think it's best if we first wait for the Qi eruption to finish before we end the sect exam prematurely." Since this was a joint sect examination, and 3 out of 4 people had already taken their stance, everything depended on what Li Huiyan's vote. If she sided with De Chao and Huizhong, then the sect examination would end now, while if she agreed with Lan Hong, then the sect exam would continue normally as it would, until the central mountain erupted. As everyone looked at the blue-robed Vice Pavilion Master of the Roaring Wind Pavilion, she sighed as she turned her eyes at Lan Hong and said, "I think that we should end the sect examination ahead of time. The dangers for our disciples have already escalated beyond our control." De Chao and Huizhong sighed in relief, while Lan Hong felt a slight sense of loss. Although the other two had a chance to lose their direct descendants in the chaos, the Qi eruption that happened once every 30 years had always allowed the disciples that survived to become stronger than the other batches. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was an opportunity filled with endless danger that allowed a carp to become a dragon. The 4 of them took out their sect-identifying jades, and as they activated them, countless strands of red light flew towards the demonic mountain region. "What is this? Did the sect exam end prematurely? Haha. I'm sure it's the Grand Elder. He couldn't bear seeing so many talents of our Flying Sword sect die here, so he must have persuaded everyone to end the sect exam ahead of time." All the disciples who had been frightened silly previously by the terrifying screech that came from the central region now felt a sense of relief as they saw their sect jades emit a red light that indicated the end of the exam. At that moment, in the central region, every rank 4 magic beast was looking at the central mountain where that screech had originated from. After Shun Long had heard that loud cry, his brows shot up as he muttered, "It can't be. How can something like that ever be a rank 4 magic beast? I must be mistaken. Master, did you find out anything?" Little Black asked after hearing Shun Long mumbling to himself. "It's nothing," Shun Long replied as he shook his head before he saw a faint strand of red light coming all the way from the outer region as it headed towards the sect-identifying jade at his pocket. The sect jade lit up with a red light that was like an invisible string which Shun Long could follow to return back to the demonic mountain region's entrance. "They decided to end the sect exam already? There is no way that I will simply go back after having come so close to the central mountain." Originally, Shun Long was planning to rest for the night before heading towards the mountain in the morning, but now he had to alter his plans. Little Black, who saw that Shun Long was ready to go to the central mountain, now said, "Master, the magic beast that cried out earlier is no ordinary peak rank 4 magic beast. Based on the strength of its roar earlier, I'm afraid that its power could probably match up to even some early rank 5 beasts. I'm afraid that even with your monarch's eternal body, it will be hard for us to escape after entering its lair." Shun Long nodded his head after he heard Little Black's words and replied, "I know. Don't worry, I still have a trump card if things really turn bad for us." Absorbing the pure qi in this demonic mountain region had incited Shun Long's greed. If the treasure inside the central mountain was really connected to the purity of the qi here, then it was worth taking the risk to obtain it. Shun Long already knew that both his monarch's domain as well as his monarch's eternal body would probably be useless against a beast that was at the peak of rank for like the overlord of the demonic mountain region. Although treasures were important, one still had to be alive to obtain them, hence without a certain degree of assurance, Shun Long wouldn't head at the central mountain since he already knew of the dangers beforehand. Little Black didn't warn Shun Long again. He had absolute faith in his master, and if he really was about to die, then the Black Dragon would accompany him to the other world without a second thought. This was what it meant to share life and death. Almost half an hour later, Shun Long arrived at the foot of this barren mountain. Looking up from the base of the mountain, one couldn't even see its peak that was hidden inside the clouds. Now that they were closer to it, Little Black once again sent his soul to sense the surroundings. A couple of breaths later, he said, "Master, I can sense the two presences from before. They are both inside a cave at the heart of the mountain." Taking a step forward, Shun Long followed Little Black's directions as he started climbing the central mountain. The central region had turned completely silent after the king of the beasts had let out that screech earlier. In the dark night, the only sound that could be heard in the central mountain amidst the eerie silence was Shun Long's footsteps as he slowly climbed up. His aura was completely concealed by the monarch's hourglass as he walked towards the heart of the mountain. The closer he approached towards the mountain center, the thicker qi in the air around him was becoming. Shun Long even felt that if he sat down cross-legged to cultivate here, he could probably break through from the middle of rank 8 all the way to the early rank 9 of qi condensation in less than a day. However, as soon as this thought took form in his head, it was instantly extinguished. The central mountain was the territory of a peak rank 4 magic beast. If Shun Long cultivated here and failed to keep his aura suppressed, he would definitely expose himself, and his plan would be ruined. Meanwhile, as Shun Long was climbing up the central mountain, the outer region had turned into chaos as the disciples from the 4 sects were running around recklessly as they looked to leave the demonic mountain region, causing countless fights with the magic beasts on their way. Numerous disciples had fallen victims to the magic beasts in the process, as the outer region now completely resembled a battlefield. The dead bodies of the sect disciples were lying around everywhere, and even more were piling up as time went by. After all, the vast majority of the disciples participating in the sect exam were between the rank 7 in qi condensation to the early rank 1 in earth grade. Even the disciples that were previously in the safe area of the inner region like Yong-Ru and the others had already left as they were heading back to the demonic mountain region's entrance. Yong-Ru, who was now resting along with 3 other men and 2 women at the outer region, turned his head to look towards the inner region as he sighed and said to himself in a low voice, "I hope that Brother Shun will be all right." One of the girls that were together with Yong-Ru looked at him as she asked, "Senior Brother Yong, are you talking about the person that you entered the safe area with?" Yong-Ru nodded his head. One of the 3 men that was wearing the robes of the iron-hardened sect heard their conversation and butted in as he said, "TSK, entering the inner region alone is tantamount to suicide. Even my elder brother died in there as he followed Senior Brother De Chong. I heard that Senior Brother De Chong and a few others barely managed to survive by the skin of their teeth after they entered the inner region, so that person who was arrogant enough to enter in there alone has probably already turned into magic beast food by now." Yong-Ru's face was visibly angered, but he knew that what this person said was the truth. However, since Shun Long had saved his life back when they were at the outer region and even helped him get to the safe area, Yong-Ru couldn't stay silent in front of his taunting. Snorting, he looked at the young man in brown robes as he said, "Do you really think that your senior brother De Chong is the strongest person in this sect exam? I heard that Hui Ming from the Flying Sword sect only lost 3 people from his group inside the inner region as he came out safely. So what, do you think that your friend is at the same level as senior brother De Chong or Hui Ming? If that's the case and you are so confident in him making it out alive, then why didn't you wait for him to return to the safe area and instead left with us?" Yong-Ru felt extremely ashamed and angry as he heard these words. He felt ashamed because that person was right, and yet he felt angry because this man had also just exposed him. Indeed, He too believed that Shun Long would die inside the inner region, and that was the reason why he didn't wait for him to return to the safe area. Although he knew that Shun Long was strong, Yongru still felt that Shun Long was quite a bit weaker than the three geniuses. And since the three geniuses were having problems in the inner region, and Chang's group from the Iron-Hardened sect had almost faced destruction in there, how could one Shun Long possibly survive? As these people were arguing, Shun Long, who was climbing up the central mountain at that time, had almost reached the midway point already, as he had now completely retracted his aura and even suppressed his own breathing. A huge cave could be seen in front of him, with an entrance more than 9 meters, 30 feet, high. Shun Long could feel a powerful dark aura, as well as wave after wave of pure chi coming from inside this cave. This aura wasn't directly attacking him, and yet Shun Long now felt a heavy feeling in his chest as his steps halted right before the entrance. A feeling as if he was getting suffocated overcame him, and just as Little Black, who had noticed this, came out from the Stone of Time, the monarch's hourglass had started circulating by itself inside his body, instantly getting rid of this suppressing feeling. Shun Long breathed out in relief, while he was shocked to find out that his body still wasn't emitting any of his aura. Presumably, as long as he didn't exert himself now, the monarch's hourglass could stay active and keep suppressing this dark aura without leaving behind the slightest trace. After entering the cave, Shun Long's surroundings completely darkened as he walked deeper inside. It felt as if he was walking inside a giant tunnel that was completely devoid of light. Thankfully, he had Little Black's soul sense, and after about a dozen minutes had passed, he could finally see some light in the distance. Heading towards the origin of this light, Shun Long, who had finally reached the end of the cave, saw a stupefying scene unfold in front of his eyes. As Shun Long reached the end of the cave, the scene in front of his eyes had left him tongue-tied. A huge bird, almost 10 meters, 33 feet, tall, had wrapped itself around a giant vine that was no smaller than the bird itself. The bird's wings were a shiny silver color, while its wingspan was more than 30 meters, 100 feet, long. Shun Long, who looked at the bird, felt like an explosion had just set off inside his head. Little Black was shocked as well, as he said in disbelief, "Master, that green vine must be the treasure of this demonic mountain region. Also, what is a rock doing in a place like this? How can a rock be at just the peak of rank 4? Rocks are very similar to us dragons, so its strength should have at least been at the peak of rank 7 as it was born." Shun Long didn't even answer Little Black's question, as his eyes were glued at the huge vine at the heart of the mountain. The silver-winged rock had tried to completely encapsulate the green vine by wrapping its wings around it, looking almost like it was trying to absorb it inside its own body. The green light that the vine emitted held a kind of fatal allure to magic beasts. Even Shun Long's heartbeat had started speeding up at the thought of obtaining this treasure. After taking a few breaths to calm himself down, Shun Long answered Little Black's question. "This isn't a pure rock, that's why it is only at the peak of rank 4. Its bloodline seems to belong to the silver-winged rocks, but it is extremely impure. I guess that one of its ancestors was a pure-blooded silver-winged rock, but as time passed, the pure blood of the silver-winged rock became thinner and thinner with every passing generation." Taking another deep breath, Shun Long continued. "However, the important thing here isn't this silver-winged rock, but the green vine at the heart of the mountain." Little Black's attention was also on the green vine, as he had too felt the attraction that the vine was emitting. He curiously asked, "Master, do you know what this vine is?" "I don't seem to recall ever seeing a plant like this." Shun Long nodded his head as he said, "If I'm not wrong, this is of heaven-swallowing vine." "Impossible. How could such a treasure exist here?" Little Black asked, but his voice seemed to be slightly trembling. To Shun Long, Little Black's reaction wasn't exaggerated at all. Instead, he nodded his head as he answered, "I don't know how, but it's definitely real. Originally, I didn't even think that a heaven-swallowing vine could exist in this place, but now I understand why the chi in this demonic mountain region is so pure compared to the floating cloud cities. The heaven-swallowing vine is absorbing the chi from its surroundings as it turns it into pure chi." Seeing the silver-winged rock wrapping itself around the heaven-swallowing vine, Little Black felt fury as well as envy in his heart. How could an impure small rank 4 rock try to eat a heavenly treasure like the heaven-swallowing vine? Even Little Black in the past hadn't seen such a treasure as this vine, if you excluded the Stone of Time, of course. This heaven-swallowing vine was a treasure that could advance the rate of your cultivation if your body cultivated close to it. However, the heaven-swallowing vine was also rumored to have its own spirit, and it was known in the cultivation world that things that were alive couldn't enter spatial rings. As Shun Long was staring at the vine with greed evident in his eyes, the rock's eyes suddenly snapped open. Its bright red eyes were staring at Shun Long with extreme hostility as it let out a screech before it slowly unwrapped its wings from the vine. "Master, it's going to attack." As soon as Little Black finished speaking, he instantly appeared in front of Shun Long. Now that the rock had noticed them, he knew that they couldn't avoid a fight. Shun Long was standing behind Little Black as he asked him through their mental connection. "Little Black, can you pin it down just for 3 breaths of time?" Little Black didn't know what plan Shun Long had, but he agreed without hesitation as he said, "Leave it to me, master." The rock flapped its wings once, as it instantly appeared in front of Little Black and Shun Long, who were still situated at the end of the cave. Little Black flapped his wings as he took the rock head-on. However, the disparity in cultivation was too big, and Little Black was the one who suffered in the first exchange as he was sent flying, crashing into the inner walls of the mountain. The silver-winged rock didn't let up as it attacked the black dragon, continuously using its talons to tear off the dragon's flesh from his body. Little Black's body had turned bloodied as wounds appeared all over it, while even his scales were injured as they weren't enough to defend against the rock's onslaught. However, the dragon didn't even let out a single sound as he kept enduring the rock's violent attack. This was the pride of the king of magic beasts, who even in the face of death would never bow down. Shun Long, who had just retrieved a silver-white page from his spiritual space, looked at this scene, and his eyes had instantly turned red. Little Black and Shun Long were sharing a spiritual bond, and that's why he knew what the dragon was thinking in his mind as the rock was destroying his body. "Buy time for master. I need to buy more time for master." Shun Long raised his left hand as he slashed the space in front of him, creating a space tear big enough for him to walk inside. After Shun Long stepped inside, he had directly appeared above the rock's neck that was still attacking the black dragon relentlessly. Holding the silver-white page in his hand, he circulated his chi to activate it, and as a pair of white runes appeared on the page, Shun Long threw it straight at the rock's spine. The silver page seemed as if it had automatically found its target as it headed towards the rock's spine. As soon as it touched the rock, though, it didn't pierce a hole in its body like Shun Long had expected. Instead, it looked as if this silver-white page had turned into something intangible after leaving Shun Long's hand, as it buried itself deep within the silver-winged rock's body. Screech! The rock cried out, in agony after that silver-white page had entered its body. Letting out cries of indescribable pain, it didn't have any strength to keep attacking Little Black as it immediately collapsed to the ground. The black dragon, whose body had suffered terribly after the rock's onslaught, was still lying on the ground as well when he saw Shun Long approaching him. Little Black tried to stand up, but the wounds he had suffered were just too heavy. Shun Long patted the dragon's head while his eyes had started to redden, seeing the condition he was in after fighting the rock. Cuts were present all over his body, while blood was flowing from his mouth. Shun Long was also certain that even some of his internal organs were damaged before he sent Little Black inside the Stone of Time. After handing a purple fruit with red lines on it to Little Black, along with 2 pieces of blood lotus, Shun Long said, "Directly eat this rank 2 purple fire fruit, as well as these 2 pieces of blood lotus. They will stop your injuries, while I will make sure to refine a pill for you in a bit." Shun Long had picked this rank 2 purple fire fruit from the lush forest earlier, along with a dozen more rank 2 medicinal herbs. He had also gathered the seeds from every fruit that he had obtained so far, including the rank 3 profound earth fruit, and had planted them all inside the Stone of Time. Although they hadn't matured yet, as Shun Long hadn't found the time to enhance their growth speed, it was only a matter of time until they did. Little Black seemed to be smiling as he instantly swallowed the purple fire fruit as well as the pieces of the rank 2 blood lotus. Although his strength was enough to match a middle rank 4 magic beast and rank 2 medicinal herbs shouldn't be of much use to him, the purple fire fruit's effects when combined with the blood lotus were enough to stop his injuries until Shun Long refined a medicinal pill for him. After handing the rank 2 herbs to Little Black, Shun Long turned his eyes to look at the silver-winged rock that was still wreathing in pain on the ground. Half an hour later, the rock's cries had started to weaken as its struggle started to lessen. At the same time, Shun Long could feel that his connection with the silver-white page was becoming thinner by the second, and after an hour, at the same time as the rock stopped moving, the silver-white page had completely disintegrated inside its body. From the first time that this silver page had appeared inside his spiritual space, back in the Alchemist's Guild, Shun Long had instantly understood its use. It was a killing weapon that was meant to save his life once. The 9 meters, 30 feet, rock's body was now sprawled on the ground. Its red eyes that were still open had now completely lost their luster as its body didn't have the slightest trace of life in it anymore. Seeing the dead silver-winged rock in front of him, Shun Long touched its body without hesitation as he put it inside the Stone of Time. Then he completely turned his attention to the heaven-swallowing vine that was buried at the heart of the mountain. The biggest challenge was about to start now. The moment that Shun Long removed the heaven-swallowing vine from the central mountain, he expected pandemonium to take place in the central region. As soon as the magic beasts here noticed the absence of the silver-winged rock, as well as the disappearance of the heaven-swallowing vine, all of them would definitely rush to the central mountain. And now that Little Black was hurt and couldn't fly, if even a middle rank 2 magic beast noticed Shun Long, he would be in danger. Since it's only a matter of time before the rank 4 beasts notice that the silver-winged rock has disappeared, there is no reason to hesitate. After all, I can't leave such a treasure here in the first place. Hearing Shun Long mumbling to himself, Little Black nodded his head as he agreed with him. That's right, Master. The magic beasts here have taken enough advantage of this heaven-swallowing vine. I'm actually curious as to how no high-level expert has noticed this place yet. Shun Long nodded his head at Little Black's words as he moved his hand towards the huge vine. As his hand came in contact with the green body of the vine, Shun Long felt an immense repelling force the moment he tried to put the vine inside the Stone of Time. After all, although the heaven-swallowing vine wasn't alive, it had its own spirit and understood that Shun Long was trying to store it inside a spiritual space. The heaven-swallowing vine burst forth with a blindingly bright green light that forced Shun Long to close his eyes. However, just as the vine's spirit started to resist, the Stone of Time also reacted as it emitted an even stronger blue light that completely suppressed the heaven-swallowing vine. The 10 meters, 33 feet, vine was instantly absorbed inside the Stone of Time, but before Shun Long had any time to rejoice and check his spoils, Little Black's voice sounded inside his head as he said, "Master, I can sense a lot of magic beasts moving from the forest on our east, and they are all coming towards our direction." Shun Long hadn't expected for the magic beasts to immediately react as soon as he took the heaven-swallowing vine from the central mountain. How many magic beasts are there? What about that 4-winged ice bird? Master, it's coming as well. The middle rank 4 magic beast inside that lake, as well as the early rank 4 beast from the mountain next to the lake, is also coming. Shun Long was stuck in an impossible position. Without Little Black, there was no way that he could escape before the rank 4 magic beasts arrived here. Every escape path was blocked as well. Stuck in this desperate situation, Shun Long tried his hardest to think for a way out when he suddenly remembered the layout of the central mountain. Looking around him, he asked Little Black, "Little Black, are you certain that the magic beasts below rank 5 can't use their soul to sense?" "Master, I am certain, but we don't have any more time to leave. The 4-winged ice bird has almost arrived at the foot of the mountain. Even if we leave now, it's too late." Shun Long then said, "I won't be able to see anything, so you have to guide me through this if we want to avoid all the magic beasts here." Little Black didn't understand what Shun Long was saying. His words made no sense until he saw Shun Long looking around, before he entered in one of the caves that were inside the mountain's heart. This central mountain is full of caves, big and small. If I can navigate my way through them, With Little Black's help we can certainly leave. At the same time as Shun Long entered the cave, the middle rank 4 magic beast, the four-winged ice bird, had already reached the foot of the mountain as it was flying towards the huge entrance in the middle at breakneck speed. To these magic beasts living inside the demonic mountain region, nothing mattered as much as the heaven-swallowing vine. In the distance, more than a dozen rank 3 magic beasts could be seen leaving the forest as they all headed towards the central mountain. At the same time, a ferocious beast that resembled a crocodile could be seen running on all fours as it emerged from the big lake, while it too headed towards the mountain. From the smaller mountain on the left side of the lake, a 3 meters, 10 feet, tall spider was madly rushing towards them as well, but that was just the start. Hundreds of beasts from all over the central region were now also rushing towards the central mountain.
Screech.
The four-winged ice bird issued a loud cry as soon as it reached the heart of the mountain. Not only was the silver-winged rock missing, but their most important, heaven-swallowing vine had disappeared along with it. As Shun Long had expected, the beasts that had just arrived at the foot of the mountain didn't head towards the mountain's heart, but instead entered from the many empty caves at the base, madly searching for the heaven-swallowing vine. Little Black, who was relaying the situation to Shun Long, was also calculating the routes to avoid the magic beasts inside. Master, there are many beasts coming from our left side. Enter the second entrance from our right, and then directly the first entrance from the left. Although Little Black had his soul sense and could still guide Shun Long, there were just too many beasts inside the mountain at this point. Although the central mountain was huge, there was almost one beast in every entrance by now. Master, we are in trouble. There is a middle rank 3 magic beast coming straight ahead of us, and there is no way to avoid it from the other caves. Shun Long was now very close to the foot of the mountain, but in the end, it seemed that they couldn't avoid every magic beast inside. Facing this situation, Shun Long's heart had turned cold. Could it be that there was no other choice than for them to fight here? Little Black's voice was then heard inside Shun Long's head. Master, I can leave the Stone of Time and kill it with my darkness fire, but... Shun Long shook his head as he replied. We will definitely be discovered then. I know. I also know the burden that it would place on you if you fought in your current condition. Stuck under this situation of extreme pressure, Shun Long tried his best to stay as calm as possible before he said, there is no other choice. We will either pull this off, or we are doomed this time. Little Black, you have to tell me the exact moment when this magic beast enters a 40 distance from us, and then again when it enters within a 20 distance from us. Little Black wasn't sure what Shun Long was trying to do, but he agreed to his request regardless, as he said. Master, right now it is 600 meters away from us. 500 m, 400, 200, 100 foot. The magic beast was closing the distance between them extremely quickly. As this beast was approaching closer and closer, Shun Long tightly clenched his fists as he emptied his mind from all other thoughts. 80 meters. 60. Master. It is 40 m away from us. As soon as Little Black's voice sounded in his head, Shun Long punched the air in front of him, and a spatial tier was forcibly opened. As soon as he created the space tier, Shun Long heard Little Black's voice in his head again saying, Master, it's within 20 meters. Shun Long instantly entered the space tier, while at the same time, the magic beast had just arrived in front of where he was just standing. His body had appeared 20 meters behind the beast, as he heard it while it was running deeper inside the mountain. The absolute darkness inside the cave had saved him from being noticed by this magic beast, and approximately an incense stick of times later, he had finally arrived back at the foot of the mountain. Leaving the cave, Shun Long had finally arrived back at the foot of the mountain. As the starry sky shed some light to his surroundings, Shun Long heard Little Black's voice saying, Master, there are many magic beasts coming from both the forest on our left, as well as the mountain on our right. The rank 4 beasts are all inside the central mountain, so this is probably the best time for us to leave. Nodding his head, Shun Long headed directly towards the big lake in the middle. Since all of the beasts had now entered the central mountain, this was the best chance to leave this place. Running at full speed, Shun Long had quickly arrived in front of the lake as he directly dove inside. Since this lake was the territory of a magic beast that was infinitely close to the peak of rank 4, no other beast was living here, making it the best path for Shun Long to take to return back. While Shun Long was swimming through the lake, the magic beasts in the central region were swarming the lush forest in droves, as they were all heading towards the central mountain. Meanwhile, neither the magic beasts in the inner region nor the big shots from the 4 sects at the demonic mountain region's entrance had noticed anything yet. After all, the fact that a heaven-swallowing vine existed in the depths of the central mountain was a closely guarded secret that the magic beasts had never allowed the humans to find. Although the 4 sects had their suspicions about a mysterious treasure existing at the heart of the central mountain, which increased the chi in the air of this region, they were unable to find out anything thanks to the silver-winged rock and the other powerful rank 4 magic beasts inside that were guarding the vine with their lives. More and more disciples were gathering back at the entrance of the demonic mountain region, while the disciples that were deeper inside, like Yongru and his group, or the 3 geniuses and their own groups, would take at least a few days to return. Nearly 2 hours later, Shun Long had already swam to the other side of the huge lake. Completely ignoring his clothes that were drenched in water, he rushed towards the inner region. The sun soon rose, and a bit more than 6 hours had passed by since Shun Long had left the central mountain. After many hours of non-stop running and many detours to avoid the waves of magic beasts, he had managed to return back to the inner region. And yet, Shun Long was now exhausted both physically and mentally. Not having slept for so long, along with the stress from barely escaping the pandemonium in the central region, had really tired Shun Long out. After finding an isolated cave, he sealed the entrance with a big rock as he then immediately fell asleep. It was only after 10 hours that Shun Long had woken up. After waking up, the first thing he checked was Little Black's condition to make sure that his wounds hadn't reopened. After making sure that he was all right, Shun Long heaved a sigh of relief before he took out his cauldron from the Stone of Time. Taking out the beast core of the rank 3 man-eating tree, as well as a few other medicinal herbs, Shun Long threw them all inside the cauldron as he mumbled to himself. The man-eating tree is a magic beast of the wood element. Its beast core has plenty of wood energy inside, and it's brimming with vitality, which will help you fully heal your injuries. Adding a stalk of a rank 2 ice grass along with the purple fire fruit will also enhance the pill's effectiveness. Since I don't have any better ingredients at hand, I have to at least create a high-grade rank 2 pill, or its effect won't be enough to fully heal you. As Shun Long was mumbling to himself, his hands were also moving non-stop as he was adding the ingredients inside the cauldron. The rank 2 ice grass required Shun Long to be very careful with the cauldron's temperature, or it could easily be destroyed, losing all its medicinal properties, while the purple fire fruit, instead, needed a very high temperature to be properly refined into medicinal essence. Shun Long, who was aiming to create a high-grade rank 2 pill for Little Black, had to completely split his attention into 3 parts as he placed the ingredients inside the cauldron. The beast core of the man-eating tree, the ice grass, and the purple fire fruit had to all be refined at the same time as Shun Long merged their essence into one. If he failed to do so, part of their medicinal essence would be lost during the refinement process, and he would at most create a middle rank 2 pill. Beads of sweat rolled off his forehead as 30 minutes later, Shun Long had reached the most crucial part of the refining process. The cauldron had started to tremble as Shun Long was mixing the medicinal essence inside it. With the monarch's domain, though, he had managed to successfully finish the refinement. Opening the lid of the cauldron, Shun Long saw a bright green pill inside it. The pill had red and white lines on it, and it was emitting a very refreshing smell. Shun Long smiled as he saw the high-grade rank 2 pill in his hands, before he handed it to Little Black. As Little Black consumed the pill, his internal injuries had already started to heal. His external injuries followed right after them, and in just a few hours, his body had already been restored back in perfect condition. Laughing, the black dragon flew around the heaven-swallowing vine as he said, "Master, I feel really good. Even better than before, actually. Now that we have this heaven-swallowing vine, our cultivation will surely advance greatly." Shun Long smiled as he watched Little Black eyeing the heaven-swallowing vine greedily, like a kid that had just discovered a treasure. Little Black, however, seemed as if he had just remembered something as he suddenly asked, "Master, do you really have to return to this floating cloud sect?"